Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back once again. We are in survival mode. The wildfires of Southern California. That should teach us all a very, very important lesson. We will have to fend for ourselves when it comes to these type of emergencies because there's nobody that's going to save us. We got to save ourselves. You see what they are going through in Southern California? It could happen to us anywhere around the world. It could happen to us. Not saying that a wildfire could happen to us, but it could be snow. It could be wind, gusts. It could be hurricanes. It could be flooding. It could be even earthquakes. It could be a different nature of different destructive things that could happen. But what I want to say is that we will have to grab our go bags and be prepared to be able to hit the road or run, walk, whatever the case may be. It's best for us to be able to fend for ourselves. And that's what I want to talk to y'all about on this channel. We will have to be our own hero during this time. We cannot depend on the government. We cannot depend on the mayor. We really can't depend on the politicians. We will have to depend on ourselves in order to get to safety. The reason why they suffered this type of catastrophic situation that happened in California is because the fire hydrants had no water. Well, they had water, but not enough water to take care of all of those neighborhoods that was located in Palisade. They did not have the type of water, enough water to take care of homes, neighborhoods, the whole area about the size of San Francisco. Really two San Francisco size areas. The reservoir holds 117 million gallons of water. And it wasn't even full of water. It was under repair, under construction, whatever the case was. Didn't have water to fight these fires. Didn't have enough water in the hydrants. So when the fire department showed up, they was doing the best they could, but they didn't have enough water in the hydrants. So they started using the water in people's pools in order to save these homes. They hooked a generator up, a pump, and they was fighting fires from the water that was in people's pools. And meanwhile, the mayor was, she knew that all of this was going to happen. She knew the winds was going to pick up. So she left the country. She made her trip back to the country, and she couldn't even answer the questions why there was not enough water to fight these wildfires. That tells us all what we got to do. We got to fend for ourselves. We got to get out of danger. Once we hear or see anything that doesn't look right, when it comes to our safety, we got to get out. We got to grab our go bag. We got to be right on point on getting out of danger. Grabbing our pets, if you have pets, whatever the case may be, don't waste time. We got to save ourselves. We cannot depend on other people to save us because these fires in Southern California is still raging, and I hope that everybody get out safely. During wildfires, people got to think, no internet. Internet will be disabled. Fire's going to take out all internet towers. So you really wouldn't have communication with no one. But you need to have a plan in your household when you see disasters coming where y'all can meet up at a certain point. Y'all meet up at a certain point at a certain time. And have some kind of sign or some kind of way of communicating without cell phones. I would say ham radios would be a good idea but you have to have a license to use ham radios. That would be a very good thing to have in your bug out bag. It's a ham radio during this time. Because I know people are already going through it in California. But for those who are not in that area, anybody else that's listening, we need to take note on what's going on and what we really need to do in order to survive emergency situations. So my message is to the people is make sure you have your go bag, make sure you have items that you can eat, that's non-perishable. Make sure you have enough bottled water. And we got to make sure we have a form of communication so we can communicate with other people that we can't reach by cell phones. I would say like 99% of the people use cell phones, in order to communicate. We all use cell phones. So we got to find out a way to communicate in case cell phone towers are burnt up or knocked down during hurricanes or whatever the case may be. And also gasoline. Gas stations are burnt to a crisp. So we need to figure out how can we get from point A to point B. Just imagine if it's like 300 miles away. We have to make sure that we have a plan for that. I know a lot of people don't have these pickup trucks with these big gallons of gas on the back of the pickup truck. But hey, we need to figure out what we can do in case of a disaster, whatever works for you in your area, because every terrain is different. In Southern California, they have a lot of hills and mountains. They have a lot of stores that you can stop that's probably outside of that area and fuel up. But you got to make sure that you are able to get out of danger. So cell phones, that's going to be obsolete until you get to another area to where you do have a tower that's up. So people lose cell phone signals very, very fast. But the main thing about this whole video is what I want people to get out of this video is have you go bag and get out of danger. That's number one. And then you can go from point A to point B to figure out how can you maneuver, get things done from once you make it to safety. So that's number one. That's what I got to talk to you today on this channel. Survival mode is to make sure you get out very safely. Make sure you have a form of communication. Once you hear the emergency alert, get out, get to moving, grab your go bag and go. So that's what we got to do, because you cannot depend on these government officials, and you see what happened. When things happen, they go and we stuck. They go and we stuck. So what we want to do is make sure that we take care of our own selves. Make sure that we have our own food, our own water. Make sure that we have all the emergency supplies that we need. We don't need to hear for somebody to tell us to get up and go and get out of harm's way. We should already know that by looking at the danger that's around us. In a certain situation, the mayor should have been there. She should have made sure that the person that was in charge of the water reservoir that needed that 117 million gallons of water that's in there, that made sure that you have enough water that's going to the pipes that was full. And one excuse that they used was that the water supply was burnt during this time. They had a lot of rain that came in that area, and they could have used all of that water if they had a system set up ahead of time, instead of cutting the budget for the water project. The person that was in charge of the water should have been on top of that. Should have been on top of that, because these wildfires has been growing year after year and getting worse by the day. People suffered. People lost out. They should have been there for the people. But that's why we got to make sure that we stay on top of taking care of ourselves. During any type of disaster, during any type of situation, we got to make sure we have our go bag, make sure we have our water ready, make sure we have our vehicles fueled up, walkie-talkie radios, ham radios, whatever we need. We got to make sure we stay on top of that because we got to stay in survival mode. Yes, we do. Thank y'all so much for tuning in the channel, and I'm out.